I was looking over everything you inherited. Before you showed up, the just challenges really across the country in the housing crisis. And I know you know this because you come from a very similar county that I do, from the foreclosure crisis to the lack of housing to the conditions of housing. I mean, I just look at the average renter now pays over 30% in their income and rent. You know the housing prices are up like 47% since 2020. Funding for your agency continues to lag behind. I look at the number of households who receive federal rental assistance through public housing Section 8 programs, which you know are some of our working class families, is lower now today than it was 2 decades ago. And so more than 19 million households qualify for rental aid, yet only 4.3 million actually receive that assistance because of the lack of funding. So I want to talk specifically about the importance of public housing stock that faces like the capital backlog, the capital improvements that are needed. I think we need like $70 billion
or
more. You only get 3 or 4% of that. Is that correct?
Correct.
So then I look at Detroit Housing Commission, and I've talked to you about this. For example, needs hundreds of millions of dollars, and they only have right now about $12 million annually to spend on those improvements. So you have roughly 30% fewer employees than you did a decade ago. Secretary Fudge, can you talk about the struggles again? Because even with the reforms that many of colleagues want to see, and I hear a lot about new construction and everything, you need the capacity within your agency to address those changes and address some of the needs that many of my colleagues mentioned. Can you talk a little bit about how critical it is for us to really understand that funds and resources are needed?
I would say just a decade or so ago, HUD and housing made up 7% of the federal budget, discretionary budget. Mm-hmm. Today it is 1%. Yeah. And so then it was a priority. Housing was a priority at that time. It is not anymore because we don't put the resources behind it to make it a priority. So until we can get back to a point where we realize that the only way to solve this problem is to preserve the housing we have, to bring public housing up to speed, to hopefully build more public housing, and to encourage the market to build more low-income and moderate-income housing, we will not get out of this because we no longer make it a priority.
Good evening, friends. This is big news, and you may want to take action as quickly as possible. The Internal Revenue Service will soon begin accepting tax filings. Many households are expected to receive their tax refund checks sooner than others. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has also released new information on the next funding bill. My dear friends, please make sure that you watch until the end of this video for more details regarding this. Also, this coming Friday, I will be announcing several winners for the Walmart gift card giveaway. If you would like to enter these weekly giveaway, friends, simply click and like several of my videos, and then comment below the keyword of each video that you watch. The more videos that you comment on, dearest friends, the greater your chances of winning these giveaways. We know that the United States Income Tax Day deadline is April 15th this year, but the Internal Revenue Service has announced that the agency will start accepting 2023 tax returns on January 29th, 2024. Although to Kiplinger, if you're looking to maximize your refund and receive your money sooner, you may want to consider filing your 2023 tax return as early as possible. Last year, almost 19 million Americans filed during the first week. Experts have noted that you should not wait until the last minute. Not only will tax procrastination slow down the delivery of your tax refund, but it can create all sorts of stress, especially if you're not sure whether you owe money or will you be receiving a tax refund. The best reason to file your taxes early is to get your money sooner if you are expecting a tax refund. About 2/3 of taxpayers who filed returns on time last year received tax refunds averaging more than $3,000. If you overpaid your taxes over the course of 2023, the IRS is holding on to your money, and there is no reason not to get it back sooner rather than later. Many are also wondering whether they will have to pay tax on rebate checks that they have received from their state. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has urged IRS Commissioner Danny Werfel to not tax Minnesota's rebate checks as income. This meeting with IRS Commissioner Werfel was the latest effort by Minnesota officials to convince federal tax leaders to reverse course. GOP Representative Pete Stober publicized his own call with Danny Werfel, recently raising the same points. Last month, the agency announced that it would take a cut of the rebate funding that trickled out to taxpayers last fall. So that means residents of Minnesota may have to hand over $26 to $286, depending on how much they received from the initial payout. At the time, Walz called the decision disappointing. While other states were able to bill similar programs and payments as disaster relief, officials said Minnesota's checks came in after the federal crisis declaration had closed out. After the IRS announced that it would count the checks as income, the State Department of Revenue began sending out 1099 tax forms that reflect the rebate amount for each recipient. They will have to claim that as income when filing federal returns for 2023. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Speaker Mike Johnson have introduced a bill to fund the government until March. Senator Chuck Schumer aims to move the legislation through the Senate this week, days before the shutdown deadline. The bill would extend funding past deadlines on March 1st and March 8th. The bipartisan agreement reached addresses key challenges at home and abroad. To avoid a shutdown, he emphasizes a need for bipartisan cooperation in both the Senate and the House to pass the bill before Friday's deadline. Speaker Johnson sees a short-term spending bill as necessary to achieve Republican goals, including ending omnibus governance, security policy wins, and better managing tax dollars. The resolution requires bipartisan support in both chambers to pass before the looming deadline. Some House conservatives criticize the legislation, but Senator Schumer urges bipartisan efforts to prevent a shutdown. The funding agreement for fiscal year 2024 includes $1.59 trillion, with $886 billion for defense and $704 billion for non-defense spending. Chuck Schumer and Speaker Johnson also agreed to a $69 billion side deal for adjustments in non-defense domestic spending. Chuck Schumer calls for Democrats and Republicans to work together, noting Minority Leader Mitch McConnell's agreement with his position on keeping the government open. Well, my magnificent and most marvelous friends, that is the end of my daily stimulus update video for today. This coming Friday, I will be announcing several winners for the Walmart gift card giveaway. If you would like to enter the weekly giveaway, friends, all you have to do is click and like several of my videos and then comment below the keyword of each video that you watch. The more videos that you watch and then comment on, friends, the greater your chances of winning the giveaways. Thank you, and have a wonderful and very blessed week.